Why me? Over the years, I've heard that phrase used umpteen times, and I reckon that there's a clear implication behind it when it's used. The implication is something along these lines. This isn't fair. Whatever it is that somebody is dealing with, whatever problem has come their way, they feel that somehow it isn't fair that it has happened to them. And that in itself suggests that there's someone else, and it would be more fair if it was happening to them than to me. It's not fair. Why me? I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. Usually this is said in anger, with somebody's fists almost railing at God for whatever has happened in their lives. And behind the why me question, I think that there's an even more fundamental question, which is something like this. If God is a loving God, why does he allow these things to happen? Why does he not intervene? On a sunny Friday morning in 1966 at 9:15 in the morning, a waste tip slid down the mountainside towards the village of Aberfan, destroying a farm in its path and killing all of the inhabitants. Children in Pantglas Junior School had just returned from singing their hymns in their morning assembly. But the slide engulfed the building, killing all 116 children and 5 teachers inside. In all, 144 people lost their lives that day in Wales. Directly following the tragedy, a minister was interviewed on television, and he was asked how God could possibly allow such a disaster to take place. His response was almost unbelievable. He said, "Well, I guess on this one, God has made a mistake." The statistics regarding the coronavirus are already shocking for us. Over 1 million people have contracted the illness. Over 50,000 in the world have already died, and it's only started. It seems unbelievable. Has God made a mistake in this one too? Why does a holy God allow these sorts of disasters to happen in our world? Why does God allow so many people to get sick and to die? Perhaps a better question that we could ask is this one. Why is it that some of us are spared? In order to fully grasp this, we need to head back to the Garden of Eden, moments before Adam and Eve had ate the forbidden fruit. Come back with me, if you will. Everything there back then was absolutely perfect. There was no pain. It was impossible for Adam to get out of bed in the morning and stub his toe in the bed. There was no suffering. Whenever Eve woke up in the morning, she didn't find that she had a stuffed nose or that she had a sniffle. And there wasn't even death. When Adam and Eve walked in the garden in the middle of the day, they wouldn't have been able to walk on a worm and kill it. There was no death in the garden. Travel forward with me just a few minutes after the fall. God had warned Adam and Eve that there would be consequences if they broke his one rule. His one rule was that there was one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, in the middle of the garden, and they were not to eat of that tree. They could eat from every other tree in the garden, but not this one. And God had warned them that if they ate of it, they would know death. This was for their own good. As soon as they ate of this forbidden fruit, everything changed. They suddenly became self-aware. They realized that they were naked, and rather than looking up towards God, now they were looking in towards themselves and looking at others and perhaps wondering how they felt about them. And the comparison game began. But there were even greater consequences for their sin that day. God said to Eve, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. Your desires shall be contrary to your husband, and he shall rule over you. And to the man he said, cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth. Now this is where it becomes relevant to what is happening around us in our world today. God said that the very ground would be cursed. You see, prior to this, there were no natural disasters. There was no disease. There were no illnesses. There was no death prior to sin. So everything that happens in our world today is as a result of sin, which was caused by the temptation of Satan. So right there is where the blame belongs. Sometimes the illness and suffering that we experience in this life can be caused by our particular sin. Other times it's caused by original sin. So how is it caused by particular sin? And let me take you right back again to Aberfan in 1966. There had been warnings to the coal board. They were told that the cost of running this mine was that the whole thing could fall. But all they were concerned about was the cost to their pocket. And so they kept the mine running whenever, for safety reasons, it should have been closed down. Man's greed stood behind that disaster. Well, what about the coronavirus? Well, we're still not 100% sure about exactly what has caused this. However, one of the things that the scientists are looking at very closely at the minute is the sale of bats to people in that food market in China. Bats? Who would want to eat vermin? But yet it would seem that this could be the cause for what we have. The sale of bats, again, driven by commerce. So should we blame God for all that is going on in our world? Well, God could have stopped it. But where does he stop in removing evil from our world? Should he destroy all mass murderers? I'm sure you would agree that could be a good place to start. What about single murderers? What about rapists? Or what about thieves? I wonder if you ever taken something that you shouldn't. So would that include you? What about those who sell the secrets of countries, or those who spread lies about people and destroy their lives in the result? Have you ever told a lie? You see, if God began this process of getting rid of evil in our world, it would mean getting rid of you and me as well. Because God reminds us that all have sinned and fall short of his glory. But instead, God has done something better. He has provided us with a greater solution, and it's called heaven. It's kind of like the Garden of Eden prior to the fall, except now there isn't even the potential to sin. No pain, no suffering, no death. And there's one other reason God may allow disasters to occur in our world. Disasters, if you like, pull the rug out from under us. It strips away our pride, our self-sufficient, arrogant nature. Suddenly money and ambition and success really don't matter. And it's a reminder that we need to look up. You see, God wants us to realize that this world as it is now is temporary. Like the porch of a house is not the place that we stop in, but it's simply somewhere we go to as we're entering into the main part of the house. We clean our shoes on the rug. We set our umbrella to the side. We take our coat off in order that we go in to the main dwelling itself. And this world is like the porch of eternity, a place where we prepare ourselves for entering into either heaven or, by not preparing, entering hell. So this life is an opportunity to prepare for the next. Illness, pain, death, viruses, earthquakes, volcanoes, all reminders that we need to be ready. Are you ready? Are you trusting in Jesus Christ? Christ came into the world to seek and to save that which was lost.